Hi friends, we are going to be going over lesson 91 today in simplifying improper fractions. And before I get into actually teaching the lesson, I want to make sure that you know that I am aware that it was posted sideways on YouTube, so you may have had to turn your computer or kind of crane your head, and I apologize for that, but I'm not really sure if there's a way that I'm going to be able to fix it. I'm going to try my best, but because I'm not at school and I loaned my document camera to Mrs. Yarbrough for her to be reading stories to her preschoolers, I can't use anything to film this way other than my phone, and it has to be at an angle. So I apologize if there isn't a way for me to fix it where it's not vertical, it's horizontal when you're looking. But I will try my best to make sure that I can figure out what to do with it so you can see it better at least. So simplifying improper fractions. So it could be a review for you or it could be completely new. So an improper fraction, we were talking about it a little bit. An improper fraction is when the numerator or the top number is greater than the denominator, which is that bottom number. Just as a review, numerator's on the top, denominator's on the bottom. Remember, you can pause the video at any time if you're taking notes with me, and that way you can get them written down without having to rush. So, improper fraction, we can never leave a fraction that way. We can never leave it with the numerator bigger than the denominator. So, if we have this practice problem, we have two large pizzas. We're at a party, and let's say that we get the cheese and we eat one of the pieces, and we have Pep, we eat another one of the pieces. Out of all of the pieces, we did not eat 3/4 of each pizza. And I have to apologize here. I was in the middle of taking notes, was about halfway done, and I got a phone call and my phone completely stopped recording and didn't save anything. So there's already information written down, so I apologize. So again, we want to figure out how many pieces of pizza were not eaten. So I'm gonna just ignore all of my little writings here. We have 3/4 of the cheese pizza, 3/4 of the pepperoni pizza. Remember, when adding and subtracting fractions, we never do anything with this bottom number, the denominator, other than just moving it over. So we're not going to add 4 plus 4 equals 8. We're just going to write it as a 4. Okay? And then as you can see, 3 plus 3, because we do add the numerators, equals 6. And like we figured out from up here, this is an improper fraction. We cannot leave the number as an improper fraction. So last year when I was teaching the now 6th graders, there were students who were able to just look at an improper fraction and were able to figure out what it would be if you made it into a mixed number in your head. Now, my math brain does not work that way. If yours does, that's totally fine. It's awesome. But if yours is like mine, I'm going to show you how to figure out how to make it a mixed number. It's a review for this piece at least, but we have to make sure it's simplified down. Otherwise, we're not following through on the problem completely. So you might be able to figure out 6/4 is blank blank as a mixed number. Well, if you didn't simplify it, you're going to get marked down because you didn't follow through. So I made it into a division problem, which we have been working with these problems for at least a couple of months now, making it into a mixed number, so a fraction to a mixed number. So I did 4 times 1 is 4, 6 minus 4 is 2, and then I came over here and wrote it down. The whole number is right here. Our numerator is 2, our denominator is 4, but it's not simplified down. And I feel like I'm kind of showing you the cheats because I had all of this written down and recorded already, but this next problem that's down here, we didn't get to yet. So this is just kind of going through the motions. We know that 2 can go into 2 and 4 evenly to be simplified down to 1 1/2 pizzas. I have this little arrow here for the 1 because knowing me when I was in school, I would have rushed through this to get it done and I would have forgotten about this whole number, which is super important. Because if we would have forgotten about it, we would have said half of the pizzas were not eaten, which we can see that's not true. There's way more pizza that was not eaten than just a half. So 1.5 pizzas total up here at this party were not eaten. That sounds like the people who are at the party do not know how to have a good time, because pizza is like the ultimate thing to have at a party, right? So for this next problem, 8/6, we need to convert it to a mixed number in the simplest form, simplest terms. So if you are, again, one of those people that can just say, oh, I know what the answer is just by looking at it, fantastic. But make sure you have simplified it all the way. Now, some of you are following along with me the way I do it, which is fine. So I'm going to make sure that I'm showing you all of the steps. How many times does 6 go into 8? 1 time. 6 times 1 is 6. 8 minus 6 is 2. We got our whole number. We have our numerator. We have our denominator. 1 and 2 sixths. Is it done? Hopefully you said no, because something can go into 2 and 6 evenly. The answer is 2. I'm going to make my whole number come over here so I don't forget about it. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it's a relatively simple idea because we are building off of skills we already know how to use, but you can't get too cocky and think, oh my gosh, this is the easiest thing, because like I was seeing a lot last year, people were skipping steps because they were getting too cocky about it and thinking, oh, I got it, I understand, I don't need to do any of this math on the paper. They weren't taking the time to check themselves. They were just rushing for whatever reason. Don't do that. Don't make the mistakes that the then fifth graders did. Make sure you are following through all the way. And you're labeling. For this particular problem, we did not have to label. Literally in your book, it just says write 8/6 as a mixed number in lowest terms. There is nothing for us to label here. However, we were talking about pizzas earlier on the first problem. We need to label it as pizzas. Some of you are going way too fast and you're not taking the time to label, and then you're missing all of these little pieces of your points that really add up at the end if you're going too fast just because you want to get done. So don't do that. Here is another example problem, and then you should be ready to go for your lesson. So this is in your book. Remember, all of this is in your book. The example says, the dictionary is 1 7/8 inches thick. I'm going to just write that down right now. So the dictionary is 1 7/8 inches thick. The thesaurus is 1 3/8 inches thick. If the two books are side by side, how thick are they all together? So we have to figure out, are we adding or are we subtracting? That key term all together means that we are going to add these two numbers. So we want to make sure we have it written out so we can actually see it well. And you can write it out one of two ways. You can write it just like this, or you can put these whole numbers like to the side. So 1 + 1 is 2. So that way we don't forget about it, but some people don't like doing it that way, but I'm going to show you both. So I'm going to do this way first, just normal. 1 + 1, like we already said, is 2. 8 + 8. Ooh, hopefully you knew that we do not add the denominators. It's kind of hard to do trick questions when there's nobody here actually responding to me, but I'm hoping that you're following along closely enough. 7 + 3 is 10. So 2 10/8. Improper fraction. There should be like an alarm or a siren that goes off when we see an improper fraction. I'm going to show you the other way really quick before we convert. So I'll write the problem like normal. I'm going to move these whole numbers to the side. should have moved it to the side over here. 7 plus 3 is 10. Denominators stay the same. So we are ending up with the same mixed number, just added it a little bit different. Whatever is easiest for you to see, for you to envision, for you to process. If it's not one of these ways, don't feel like you can't do it, but make sure that you're showing the steps so that way when I'm grading, I can go back through and go, oh, that was a really good idea, it just didn't work here, or there's a step missed, or they wrote down the wrong number, etc. So when we are doing this piece with the fraction here, we have this whole number, which can get kind of confusing, so I want you to really hold on tight to this. Do not write the whole number with your division problem if that's the way that you're solving it. But we cannot forget about it, so that's why I circled it, or you can star it, you can do something to make it noticeable. So just like normal, 8 goes into 10 one time. Oh, I skipped a step, I'm sorry. 8 cannot go into 1, but 8 can go into 10 one time. 8 times 1 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. We have 1 and 2/8. Hopefully you're with me so far. Now we can simplify it down. 2 goes into 2 and 8 evenly. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now here is the part that we cannot forget. We had that 2 to begin with, plus 1 equals 3. Oh, and then the final piece, I hope you can figure out what I'm missing. Inches. We were trying to figure out if we put the dictionary and the thesaurus together, how thick would it be? It'd be 3 1/4 inches thick. When dealing with these whole numbers here, you don't have to wait until the very last minute to figure out what the whole number in front will be. You could have done it before. You could have done it, like I said, completely different way than I'm doing it, which is fantastic. I'm so glad your brain works in a different way than mine, but you still have to show the steps. Make sure that you are thinking logically about the problem. So when you get an answer, instead of just writing it down on your paper, on your answer sheet, think logically. Okay, let's pretend that we forgot about those whole numbers. Well, if we put a thesaurus that's 1 3/8 inches thick and a dictionary that's 1 7/8 inches thick, we put them together and that got 1/4 inches thick, that's not logical. It's not logical at all. Those numbers that's way bigger, it's way thicker than 1/4 would be. So you go, oh gosh, I forgot about that whole number. You can just add it in really quick and make sure that you didn't forget it. That logical piece of things, if you just take like 10 seconds just to say, wow, is this a logical answer? Your math grades will go up significantly because you're taking the time to ask yourself, is this possible? Is it even logical? Does it even make any sense at all? And if it doesn't, maybe you redo your problem. Remember, there's no race against anyone. There's not even a race against yourself. There's no reason for you to be rushing through any of this math, because at the end of the day, the end of the school year, whatever it is, if you rushed through and your brain was not able to process it, there's no point in doing the math because you haven't really taken in what we've been talking about. So don't rush. Remember, if this does not make sense the way that I'm doing it, I know it's difficult because we're not in class. There are videos that you can watch on YouTube through Khan Academy. I'm going to write down the spelling just in case you forgot how to spell it. And he does really, really awesome videos, and they're probably different ways to solve it than I would do, which could really help some of you. It could be a hindrance. It could be not so good for you, but try it. You never know if it's going to be better for you or if it's going to just make it, you see it a different way. Or you can just rewatch the video in every lesson right before your actual lesson starts. There are practice problems on every lesson. I would, if you're still like, maybe I'm getting this, but can you do one more problem with me, or can I just try one more? there's always a section that is titled Lesson Practice. Do a couple, see how it goes, and remember, is it logical? Make sure that you're simplifying all the way down. I'm going to do one more from that lesson practice just so that way you can see maybe where it is on your paper. So my book says it's page 600. However, I don't know if that's the same in your book. I feel like that's way too far, so I'm not exactly sure what page it's on in your book. But B says 10/6. And the directions explicitly say simplify each fraction or mixed number. So we know that we need to convert this to a mixed number. Remember, you can do it the way that I've been doing it with the division, or if you're able to do it in your head, fantastic. Me doing the division, 6 cannot go into 1, but 6 can go into 10 once. 6 times 1 is 6. 10 minus 6 is 4. And then I got whole number, numerator, denominator. 1 4/6. Not done yet. Not simplified all the way down, because there's a number that can go into 4 and 6 with, evenly. Remember, it's never going to be 1 because you'll just end up with the same answer. 2 can go into 4 and 6 evenly. 4 divided by 2, 2. 6 divided by 2, 3. Can't forget about our whole number here. The improper fraction 10/6 is simplified and converted down to 1 2/3. So again, if you're taking notes, you could have paused, you can go back, you can do anything that you may need to make sure that you are staying on track with what I'm doing here. If you still have questions, you're still not understanding, don't skip the problems in the math book. Attempt them, but put like a star or a check mark or even a note that says, Miss M, I tried my best, still a little bit not understanding or still a little bit tricky. Or your parents can email me. I can Zoom call with you. I would love to be able to help you further if you need it. So that is lesson 91. And like I said, I hope that this is just really a review of sorts with just 1 or 2 new pieces inside of it. But you guys are doing awesome with your lessons. Make sure that you're taking your time to label, to make sure that you've actually read through the whole problem, please. I miss you guys. I hope to see you all soon. Bye.